Shocking truth about Meghan Markle's so-called cookie queens is being revealed after a disastrous appearance at the Sundance Film Festival. And it's no surprise, really, that it seems Meghan has no idea about the truth of the film that she is promoting, given that she decided to buy it without actually having anything to do with its production. But of course, Meghan's behaviour towards the children themselves is also being exposed. Look at this from the red carpet, where she really did prove that she don't like these children. She's not at all interested about being around these children. And actually what she likes is the very quick pose for a selfie. What?
Can I get a photo? Oh my gosh, amazing! Thank you so much!
And she's gone in a flash. But lots of reporting out of Utah after this car crash appearance where Meghan and Harry couldn't even fill the theatre. Shoot a scoop, revealing that Harry and Meghan have stepped in it again, leaving the girl guides fuming. He writes, according to Festival Whispers, the couple enthusiastically backed Cookie Queens, a glossy feel-good documentary that follows young girls selling cookies. Cute, absolutely. Complicated, oh yes, because viewers say beneath the sprinkle lies a less adorable truth. Parents footing hefty bills, kids coached to be extra charming, and pressure dressed up as empowerment. They literally cannot help themselves. They always step in it. One festival goer sniped afterwards. Another attendee didn't mince words. I honestly don't think they watched the documentary. And Shooter says this is where the optics get sticky. For a couple famously vocal about protecting children, critics say the film quietly exposes a system that feels off. It's exploitation hiding in plain sight, a source told me. And the Sussexes seemed completely clueless that the film showed that. Now comes the fallout. Insiders claim girl guides are fuming, feeling exposed and blindsided by the royal seal of approval. This was not the endorsement they expected, one source says. They feel thrown into a spotlight they didn't ask for. Another insider summed it up best. Everything they touch turns controversial. That's not a bad thing if it's intentional. This time, it clearly wasn't. And there is so much to go at in terms of this movie, but also in terms of the premiere itself. Obviously, the Sussex Squad hit back and said, no, there were not empty seats. There were no empty seats. Well, what explains this picture, which was actually taken from the premiere, showing a massive chunk of empty seats? And you know Harry's unhappy. I mean, Nancy Sidley got it right when you could see this picture, which was actually taken from behind during the screening. But she said, you can feel Prince Harry's misery. And you can. It absolutely seeps out from that photo. Yet, as Nancy also pointed out, when they are in public, it is a performative nightmare, as you can see from that awkward hand-holding. Now, I think perhaps what's most damning for Meghan Markle, of course, is that even though she has tried to paint this movie as not only being cute, but being based on feminist empowerment, it looks like Netflix actually passed on the documentary entirely because its message simply wasn't that. New reporting now from Paula Frolic, who writes, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are shopping their new Cookie Queens, a film The Hollywood Reporter described as saccharine sweet, meaning Netflix has passed on the movie. Despite this, the Sussexes still showed up at the Sundance screening, smiling, clapping and basking in praise. Markle, a former scout herself, revealed her favourite Girl Scout cookie, Thin Mints naturally, and gushed that the film was not just adorable, but one of the most meaningful and powerful depictions of American tradition. But what tradition is she talking about? Selling cookies or getting into debt? Because beneath the bows, badges and big smiles, Cookie Queens tells a far more uncomfortable story, one that some audience members aren't convinced the Sussexes fully grasped. As one Redditor who attended the screening put it, I was at the morning Sundance screening. I'm not sure the Sussexes understand the film. While the girls are adorable and their stories touching, the documentary shows significant exploitation by the Girl Scouts organisation. The commentator went on to note that parents are required to front the money for cookie inventory before a single box is sold, something sometimes thousands of dollars worth. One family featured in the film reportedly struggled to pay in advance for more than 2,000 boxes of cookies so their daughter could try to win a trip to camp they otherwise couldn't afford. Another girl, this is the so-called cookie queen, racked up sales almost entirely online through a website built and managed and promoted by her parents, complete with videos of the child cheerfully pitching cookies. The girls are coached to upsell, to charm, to lean into cuteness because cuteness sells. For the Harkles, who claim deep concern about child exploitation, this feels like an odd film to associate with, but I'm sure the nuances were utterly lost on them. However, The Hollywood Reporter, the trade Bible, very important in this business, given that Meghan and Harry can't sell this film, didn't miss the nuances. Its review notes that girls can age out of cookie selling once they're no longer considered cute, effectively training children to understand that their appeal is temporary and transactional. As the reviewer bluntly observed, the film's lesson is inseparable from late-stage capitalism. Cuteness, like beauty for older women, is a commodity, one the possessor can exploit to their advantage. At the same time, the girls seem to have absorbed that guilt-tripping potential customers as part of the game. In other words, smile and sell, and don't forget to weaponize pity. And here's the kicker, Cookie Queens hasn't even been sold. Despite Harry and Meghan's first look deal, Netflix passed. The film is still being shot by WME, an independent film, meaning the streaming giant that once bet big on the Sussexes quietly passed. Cute perhaps? Powerful? That depends on whether you see it as a heartwarming portrait of American hustle or a glossy tutorial and how early capitalism trains girls to monetize themselves. And look, the reason that I think it was so important to get into all of that is because, of course, Harry and Meghan are acting as if this was a film appearance, a Sundance Film Festival appearance, because they'd won something. When indeed the reason they are having to pimp themselves out is because they can't even sell this movie. And the Oscar-style speech from Meghan Markle made no sense. She has given one interview to the Hollywood trade magazine Variety, who did a piss-poor job, I have to tell you, even though this was an interview conducted on Zoom. But I will take you through it and the key moments. It's headlined, What Meghan Markle Learned About Business from Being a Girl Scout. And Meghan says, what's so fantastic about the experience of being a Girl Scout, and my mum was my troop leader as well, is I don't think you understand just how impactful all of those tools that you're learning are going to carry through in your life later on outside of the community building. What I love about what Alyssa did, that's the director of the film, bringing this film to life, is it gives such an objective point of view about girlhood, humanity, but also how they're leveraging technology, how they're learning microfinance, financial independence. All of these elements that are baked in, dare I say, to the tradition of the Girl Scouts cookie season. So Meghan is very much now aware of this criticism and trying to say, oh, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Okay, then. The question from Variety was, with two of the subjects being from California, Meghan, did watching them make you nostalgic? She replies, yes, without question, especially now as a mother of a daughter. There's a very different lens that you're witnessing it through. And of course, being reminiscent of my own experience of having been a Girl Scout in California, I love how varied and diverse the casting is. I love that you see some of these families and what they're sacrificing to give their daughters these opportunities. And on the flip side, some daughters were pushing themselves much more than their parents would ever push them, and how that's ingrained so early on. You see how multidimensional these young girls are, but also the dads. And this is interesting because it's when she speaks about Harry and how she thinks Harry performs as a father. You get to see an image of fatherhood that I think is really powerful to have depicted in this day and age. So outside of mothers and daughters and granddaughters, but every single role that you can play in a young girl's life that's going to empower and able to her to be strong women, and the role that fathers can play in that, it's just so great. And that's how my husband is with Lily. It's a beautiful piece to include in the filmmaking, which Alyssa made a point to have there. The interviewer then goes on to ask, what did you learn from producing the series in terms of audiences' appetite for lifestyle programming? Now, that's speaking about With Love, Meghan, which of course has been a complete disaster, didn't even make the top 1,000. But Meghan can't ever admit that she's got something wrong. So she goes back to the one success that she's ever had in her career, which was the D-list cable drama she appeared in before meeting Harry. And she says, Suits was 7 years for me. And then doing With Love, Meghan was 17 episodes of television in a year with pre- and post-production. It is such an undertaking, and it makes me have even more respect for creatives who are throwing themselves into this every single day. From my standpoint, it's an industry that I grew up in and I know really well. And at the same time, it is such an exciting opportunity as an adult to find something that piques curiosity at every turn and to continue to remind each other how we can be creative, how we can work as a team, how dedicated a crew is. Building trust with the subjects of the film and their families, it's multifaceted, but I'm just excited to continue to explore and play and have fun. So let's just note there that there was absolutely no acknowledgement that With Love, Meghan has been a disaster, that she's pivoting, that she's going to do something else. It's typical Meghan Markle. Total delusion, I would argue, but it's really terrible that Variety magazine did not even press her on what is a business reality. The final question from Variety was about her return to acting. They said, speaking of fun, you just returned to acting with a cameo in the Amazon movie Close Personal Friends with Lily Collins and Brie Larson. How much fun was that? So come on. I mean, you just know this is a propaganda interview. But Meghan replies, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but that's just the point, right? We continue to explore different ways to uplift and celebrate the entertainment industry and all the incredible pieces of work that are out there that people work so hard on. Cookie Queen's being one of them. So she's pivoted back. This is such an important piece of cinema to be able to share with people, and I just know people are going to love it the same way you and I do. So what Meghan Markle is effectively trying to say there is that she is now an entertainment whore. That she's literally going to slut herself around whichever part of the entertainment industry wants her, and that this is part of a strategy? Are you kidding me? Is anyone buying this? Because I'm certainly not. And there was something else I wanted to show you from the weekend that's new and really horrified me. And it's the fact that Meghan refused to sit down with the Cookie Queens themselves, the young kids. You saw, I mean, let's just look at her on the red carpet again very quickly. You saw just from this moment that she doesn't like these children. She doesn't like being around them at all. And she actually refused to sit with them for the interview with Deadline, but the director fronted up instead. So shame on Meghan, because I would argue this could have been a cute moment, actually. And good Lord, she's looking for a cute moment after the disaster of Sundance thus far. But she didn't. But I want you to listen out for something which stood out for me immediately. These young girls who are Americans have been clearly ordered to refer to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, not by their names, not by their common names, not by their American names, Meghan and Harry, but using their royal titles. I found it very off-putting. Watch this.
And so what do you all think about having royal people involved in your documentary and supporting you?
It feels like crazy.
Like, am I dreaming?
I always read them in my books, like the princesses and the kings, and then I actually get to meet one.
When I first found out that I was meeting the Duke and Duchess, I was like, are you serious? Are you sure? But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm so stoked.
It's just crazy to me because me and my parents watched their documentary on Netflix and now they've watched me. That's just crazy.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And I think they're just as excited to meet you guys as you are to meet them. And it's been really a feeling of genuine connection. So I hope that that's something that also audiences will feel with these girls, like to be able to see themselves in your stories. So it's really courageous that you're putting yourselves out there like that.
And that would have been cute if it had been Meghan sitting there, but she wasn't, so they decided to ask the kids about her.
There's royalty in the title, Cookie Queens. Yeah. There's royalty behind the scenes. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Tell us about that, how they got involved.
Yeah. So Cookie Queens is a totally independent documentary, independently financed and produced. And we actually started at Sundance through the Catalyst program and got support from the Sundance Doc Film Fund and have an incredible group of executive producers. And most recently, that includes Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and their production company, Archwell Productions, and their whole really wonderful and supportive team. So we're excited. Meghan was a Girl Scout herself, actually in the same Girl Scout Council as Nikki and Nala.
Yes,
in Los Angeles when she was a kid. Her mom was her troop leader. And so the connection with our film is very personal and very genuine. And she has been super supportive, all of them at Archwell. And so we're excited that that gives us potentially a bigger platform and audience to share this message with the world. I think they understand that the film is both about Girl Scouts and cookies, but also about something bigger and more universal around coming of age.
Now, we know that Meghan had snapped on the red carpet to a Deadline reporter when he dared to ask about her own daughter joining the Girl Scouts, which is such an obvious softball question.
Let's start with the visual evidence, because no amount of PR spin can undo what people saw with their own eyes. On the red carpet, Meghan Markle looks visibly disengaged, not just distracted, but actively uninterested in the very children her documentary claims to celebrate. There's no warmth, no curiosity, no interaction beyond what's required for the camera. What does get her attention? A split-second selfie opportunity, and then she's gone. For a project supposedly rooted in empowerment and girlhood, the optics are brutal. If body language tells the truth, then this moment alone undercuts the entire feminist narrative Meghan is trying to sell. And refusing to sit with the children for interviews? That's not scheduling. That's avoidance. Here's the central scandal. Meghan Markle promoted a documentary she clearly didn't understand. Reports from Sundance insiders suggest the Sussexes enthusiastically backed Cookie Queens without grasping its darker implications, namely, child labor framed as empowerment, parents fronting thousands of dollars, and children coached to Monet's cuteness. This is where it gets uncomfortable. For a couple who constantly lecture the public about protecting children, mental health, and exploitation, this endorsement feels wildly off-brand. Not because the film exists, but because the film exposes exactly the system Meghan claims to oppose. Girl guides and insiders are reportedly furious. They didn't sign up to be a case study in late-stage capitalism, and they certainly didn't expect royal branding slapped on top. Once again, everything the Sussexes touch turns controversial unintentionally. Let's talk about the seats. Despite Sussex Squad denials, photographic evidence shows large empty sections during the screening. This wasn't a packed, buzz-heavy Sundance moment, it was a lukewarm reception at best. And Prince Harry's body language? Miserable. Not tired. Not shy. Miserable. When Harry and Meghan appear together now, it feels less like partnership and more like performance choreography, awkward hand-holding, delayed cues, forced smiles. The authenticity that once sold their brand is gone. This wasn't a victory lap. It was damage control. Here's the headline Hollywood actually cares about. Netflix passed. Despite a first-look deal, Cookie Queens wasn't picked up. The Hollywood Reporter didn't mince words, calling it saccharine and hollow. Translation: cute, but commercially useless. That matters. Because Meghan's entire Sundance appearance was framed like a triumph, speeches, clapping, glowing quotes, when in reality, this was a film no major streamer wanted. And when Meghan praises it as one of the most meaningful and powerful depictions of American tradition, it sounds less like insight and more like overcompensation. Selling cookies isn't empowerment when families are pushed into debt and children are taught that their value expires.
Daughter, she's maybe a little bit too young for Scouts at this point. Do you want Lilibet to be part of Girl Scout?
It's interesting. I think we'll continue to explore whatever feels right. But Alyssa's also a mom of a daughter.
Angela Levin, our royal mastermind, Prince Harry's biographer, with us now. Such a terrible performance from Meghan, Angela. I mean, the only time I saw her happy at all was when she was posing for a split second for the cheesy selfie. The rest of the time, she's clearly annoyed, doesn't want to be there. And the movie, Angela, has not gone down well at all.
No, nobody wants it. Netflix certainly not. But one of the interesting things is that I'm sure that she didn't have anything to do with it. She didn't. She didn't write anything. She didn't, do anything that with to make it work well. And so she didn't know anything. And she said with the film, it's not just adorable, but one of the most powerful and meaningful depiction of an American tradition. Now, that's really nonsense. They're just teenagers, aren't they, trying to sell a few sweets, cakes. But she obviously said that because she didn't know what was going on. So that was her thing, something most powerful and meaningful. It's ridiculous. And she said as well, I think for me, to the viewpoint of a mother, I find it really inspiring. Well, it's not exactly inspiring, isn't it? Is it? It's just girls playing around. But the difficult thing, the shocking thing, I think, is the exploitation of Girl Scouts who've got to start trying to sell, as you said just before, 2,000 boxes of the things that they're providing to win a trip to a camp. The parents can't pay for it. They can't pay for it. So it's actually trying to make children to buy things in order that they can have a Sundance experience. I don't think that's right. And Meghan is supposed to be somebody who doesn't actually do anything like that. This is an appalling way of dealing with children.
I know, it's just really, really bad that she hasn't actually understood what this movie is about. But Angela, on the red carpet footage, I mean, number one, how awkward was it that you've got Harry in court just a couple of days earlier saying, I was made to be, a performing monkey by the British royal family and it was awful. And, all of that was just total rubbish, wasn't it? But then there he is. You can see him, Angela, in the corner, having to just watch on as if he is the spare, as if he has now become the spare part to Meghan Markle, given he actually, you wouldn't believe it from watching this, but he actually has equal role in the film as she does. He's watching on there awkwardly. Then you wait for the moment where she gives him the nod. Do you see then? She gives him the nod and he rushes over, and it's like, oh, I'm allowed on. He's a little performing puppy dog to Meghan Markle.
Yeah. I think Meghan told him not to come because it wasn't her who sort of signalled him to come, but the woman who's actually in charge of it, who made all the effort for it, she wanted him, just the same as she didn't put her hand round Meghan before. She wanted Harry with her because obviously she liked him, even if he didn't do anything. They really did nothing, that's the thing, really nothing. But this lady liked him. But I expect Meghan was very difficult and cross that he actually came over. See, he's not allowed to say anything, do anything, be anything that takes anything away from her. Nothing. She's grown in her head that she's the only person who can actually lead anything because she knows how to do it. I mean, it's nonsense words that she uses now. Absolutely nonsense words, isn't it? She doesn't realise it's exploitation. She just says it's one of the most powerful and meaningful depictions. Well,
exactly. She hasn't got it. She hasn't got it. She actually hasn't understood how this film will be seen. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that Netflix turned it down. By the way, just on this point, Angela, of Harry being a performing monkey, right? Roy Anika in the Sunday Times, who has long been a member of the Royal Rota, actually had a pretty close relationship with Harry, followed him around a lot, I believe has interviewed him, has written quite a scathing piece after his court appearance headlined, Admit it, Harry, you didn't hate every second of being a working royal. The Duke's mid-trial hindsight about the institution is purely revisionist theory. She says, I have watched him cheerfully perform for the media. And she goes on to say, Harry says he just wants an apology and some accountability. But is that really all he wants? Because watching him in court, it felt like there was another agenda at play, that he wants us to believe he was never a happy prince. If his ambition really is to wipe clean the memory of a prince who once relished his role, he may soon achieve it in the court of public opinion. The image of happy Harry is fading from view, but what a shame it will be if the once cheerful prince who did so much good inside the royal fold is forever remembered outside the institution as a disgruntled duke. So I thought that was an interesting point, Angela. Firstly, Harry, actually, what are you doing here? Because you should want people to remember the happy times. But do you remember the happy times? Do you agree with Roy Anika? Is he sort of engaging in what she describes as revisionist theory?
I think what happened is that Meghan has crushed everything out the way. She's told him to hate his father, to hate Camilla, to hate his brother, to hate his sister-in-law, who he loved very much. It's Meghan going on and on and on about how awful they are. I know people who have been absolutely wrung out by their partner because they show them how everything is awful. And so when she sees how the royal family, that she can't do it, it's much too hard for her. And of course not, because it would take 2 years to get going and learn the things. And Harry tried to show her what to do. I know that for sure. And Camilla tried to show her, but she wouldn't take it from anyone because she knows these things herself. Now, that's nonsense, isn't it? You can't come in and know how to run, a royal household. But so she would convince him that everything's awful. He loved it. I spent, 15 months with him going to places, so often a week. And he loved it. He loved it with the army people. He loved it with children who were very poor. He did a fantastic talk with guys who weren't accepted anywhere because they stole things and they were difficult. And they had Harry, Harry had them eating out of his hand because he just made them feel that there was an opportunity for them in their lives. And he loved every bit of it, really, really did. And he was funny, he was good fun. But Meghan's told him he doesn't like it. It's awful. He can't have it. And so he doesn't know where he is. But it was a fierce, aggressive hit by her that's taken all his feelings out of what he did. He did love it, and he just is not allowed to love it anymore.
Very fascinating analysis, Angela. I also just want to show you this new Tom Sykes piece from the Royalist Substack, where he says he actually saw this alleged stalker of Harry in court this week, and says, can we really imagine a situation where a fixated individual was allowed to get this close to any royal with RAVEC-mandated police protection, such as Prince Andrew? And he said, when I was in the Royal Courts of Justice on Monday, I thought I saw the woman alleged to be Prince Harry's stalker lined up outside courtroom 76 to get access after lunch on day one, when his team were laying out his case. His legal team were about to resume setting out their arguments, and because all the press seats were taken, I had joined the line for members of the public. I did notice that the court staff who decided how many people are allowed into the public stands, usually as few as 10 to 12, conveniently cut off entrance to the court just as she reached the top of the line. I think she was ninth, which from my previous experience at court seemed a little strict. Usually they squash people in like sardines. She looked kind of pissed off and stalked off into the depths of the court building, disappearing into its musty warren of corridors. I went to an overflow room with a video link, but she did not appear there. At the time, I doubted it could really be the same woman who had been written about as Harry's alleged stalker. It seemed extraordinary that she could get that close. She also looked slightly different from images I had previously seen, and I wondered if she might be wearing a wig. However, I now believe that she was indeed the woman Harry regards as the stalker, after I read a report by Victoria Ward in The Telegraph, which said the alleged stalker had managed to enter court 76 twice while Harry was there. He goes on to say the woman has long presented herself not as a threat, but as a devoted supporter. She is described as a member of the so-called Sussex Squad of committed fans. She first got physically close to Harry and Meghan in Nigeria during their trip there. Photographs from that visit show her beside Meghan, and there was no sign at the point that the couple or their team regarded her as dangerous. By September, however, I understand she'd been placed on a police list of fixated individuals. Around that time, there were 2 further encounters at a Wellchild event in London, the main public engagement of Harry's that week. She is said to have entered the hotel hours earlier and hidden in the toilets, emerging when she knew the prince was nearby. Even then, she did not manage to get right up to him. So, Angela, I'm really sorry about this, but I'm very clear. This woman is a fan. She's a Sussex Squad fan. And Prince Harry is using her, and shame on him, using her to try and get his security back. It actually shows how cretinous he is about the individuals who seem to like her, because, Angela, trust me, this woman would have been reported, and if she had ever had a weapon or anything like that, or attempted any physical harm of Harry, then the police would have got involved. So I actually just find this desperate on Harry's part. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you completely. Because if she'd made any sort of movement that was semi-dangerous, if the police also knew who she was, they'd have got her out 1, 2, 3. So the fact that they allowed her to stay there twice is ridiculous. It's nonsense. You know, you've got the lawyers there, you've got judge there. You know, you're not going to let somebody who might just suddenly decide that she's going to kill somebody, or Harry or anybody there. It doesn't make any sense at all. And Harry is using her because he wants the money for the whole family. And this is another thing that he's doing it to please Meghan, because she's made this very posh announcement that she won't go anywhere unless she's got proper attention, and she wants this, and she wants glass covered where she bedroom is, and all this. She's asked so much nonsense. In a way, it's a sort of good job that she wants to go back, because she's unlikely to get it. But it is just, it is a nonsense. And I think it's appalling of him to do that, because it's our tax. And I don't see why we should pay somebody who's actually not really telling the truth.
Angela Levin, our Royal Mastermind, thank you so much.
Once they stop being cute. The Variety interview is where the spin goes into overdrive. Not a single challenging question. Not one mention of With Love, Meghan flopping. Not one acknowledgement of Netflix rejection. Instead, Meghan reframes criticism as enlightenment, calling exploitation microfinance, pressure growth, and parental debt opportunity. This is classic Meghan Markle strategy, rebrand failure as vision. She even pivots to Suits, the only real success on her resume, to avoid addressing present-day reality. And when asked about acting, she dodges again, framing herself not as a failed producer, but as a flexible entertainment force who can slot anywhere. But audiences aren't buying it anymore. This is where it all collapses. Meghan Markle refused to sit down with the children featured in the documentary. Instead, the director took her place while the kids spoke about Meghan, not with her. Even worse, the children were coached to refer to her and Harry only by royal titles. Think about that. American children. At an American film festival. Required to use British aristocratic titles. For a couple who claim they rejected royalty, that's not humility, that's hierarchy. This could have been a heartwarming moment. Instead, it became unsettling. Just days earlier, Prince Harry told a court he felt like a performing monkey as a royal. And yet here he is, silent, sidelined, waiting for Meghan's nod before stepping into frame. The irony is painful. Royal commentators and journalists who knew Harry before Meghan describe a very different man, one who loved public service, thrived with children, and enjoyed royal duties. Now, his past joy is being rewritten as trauma. This isn't healing. It's revisionist history. The alleged stalker story raises serious questions. According to reports, this woman was long treated as a fan, even appearing near Meghan in Nigeria, until suddenly she became a security threat useful to Harry's court case. If she were truly dangerous, she wouldn't have made it near him, not once, not twice. This looks less like fear and more like leverage. Using public anxiety and taxpayer sympathy to regain full security funding is not protection, it's manipulation. What we saw at Sundance wasn't empowerment, activism, or artistic success. We saw a documentary no one wanted, a star who wouldn't sit with children, a prince reduced to a prop, a narrative collapsing under scrutiny. Meghan Markle didn't control this story, it exposed her. Now I want to hear from you. Was Meghan right to promote this film, or did it expose everything she claims to stand against? Did Harry once love royal life, or is this revisionism? Are the Sussexes misunderstood, or simply unmasked? If you agree, hit like button. If you disagree, comment anyway. Subscribe for uncensored royal commentary. Because whether people like it or not, this story isn't going away.